Good evening and welcome to Unfiltered. My name is Unati Bagyashe, standing in for my colleague Aldrian Sampier. Well, Tourism Month is nearing its end, and for some it has brought renewed hope of recovery in the sector. September focuses on the importance of tourism in the South African economy. But like many sectors, the tourism industry has been left battered by COVID-19, with many businesses, especially SMMEs, severely affected. The Mpumalanga province, through its Tourism Expo, has been trying to help businesses get back on their feet. Well, tonight, we welcome the acting CEO of Mpumalanga Tourism, Mduduzi Vilakazi, as well as Dr. Dimakazo Malwela, who is the Vice Chairperson for United Nations Women in Tourism Leadership Africa Committee. She's also President for Women of Value Southern Africa and SADC Women in Tourism. Tonight, we ask you this question: what measures should government take to boost tourism recovery and in turn boost the economy? Well, remember to tweet us at Unfiltered SABC, and please find us on Facebook using Unfiltered SABC. First, let's take a look at this insert by our producer Nono Magogoma.
The COVID-19 pandemic was an immense shock to the tourism sector and had a devastating impact on the South African economy as a whole. Businesses are now focusing on recovery.
COVID had a major impact on the sector, and a number of businesses were closed. So together with, as government, together with the private sector, we're collaborating in all our initiatives so that we can be able to restore confidence within the tourism businesses.
The sector lost about 470,000 jobs due to the pandemic.
With the support that has been given through financial means and affording businesses to showcase their products at most of our trade shows, we're able to give them an opportunity to be there and be visible, because some of them do not have the capital to be able to showcase their products in some of these trade shows.
The Kyalami Hotel has been operating in Mpumalanga for years. Its management says they are eager to bounce back after the pandemic.
Hospitality industry was knocked very, very badly. It actually crumbled a lot of establishments, closed a lot of industries and branches across the world, actually.
During COVID-19, the hotel had to operate with skeleton staff.
We did have a selection of staff that did come to work, and the others were sent at home. So it was very up and down during the first period of the first shutdown. But then slowly it started to pick up again, and we had slightly skeleton staff.
Some businesses are still trying to pick up the pieces.
Having started in 2014, then the pandemic comes in 2020, it was like, wow. Just when we were starting to do good, the pandemic came. So we haven't really fully recovered from the pandemic.
As a destination of choice for about 15 million visitors annually, South Africa is optimistic about its tourism prospects. Domestic travel numbers are up, bringing new hope of a speedy recovery in the sector. Nono Magongoma, SABC News, Bombela, Mpumalanga.
Well, let's continue this discussion. Let's start with Acting CEO of Mpumalanga Tourism, Mr. Mduduzi Vilakazi. Mr. Vilakazi, thank you so much for your time this evening. Well, let's perhaps start here, to understand the impact the Mpumalanga province specifically through the expo, is making to help businesses get back on track. Perhaps one would need to understand the severity of COVID-19 on this particular sector. Perhaps give us a picture of just how severely impacted the tourism industry was by COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you very much, Unati. COVID-19 was very bad, especially to tourism. When we look at what we did during that time of COVID, there were restrictions that were meted at traveling. And as a result, Mpumalanga was dependent largely on international travels or travelers. So as a result of that, we had to reduce drastically the number of travelers, which led to a closure of many of our establishments, as well as tourism products, which they are still struggling now to reopen. We have tried to help by giving some financial boost to ensure that the the facilities are not closed down, but due to the number of visitors, because the volumes of visitors is what makes the money. So if there are no visitors, there is no revenue. As a result of that, the business was hit hard in craft, in accommodation, in meetings, conferences, and so forth. So as a result of that, we had to change the strategy to say, probably we can survive more with domestic tourism than with international tourism. Although we need international tourists, but we are also promoting that our people must visit their attractions.
So through this tourism project, what exactly is it that you are doing? How are you assisting each business, if you can, particularly those SMMEs, realistically get back on track, and then, of course, directly boost the much-needed, growth in the economy through this particular sector, the tourism sector. A lot of people saying, of course, that some of their businesses have completely been obliterated. So, how exactly is this tourism month, and particularly this particular summit, assisting them financially?
It's not mainly about the finance. It's mainly about access to the market. The tour operators, the biggest tour operators, are bringing in a number of tourists. They have packages, but those packages do not touch the SMMEs. What we are promoting here is that the tour operators, the tourism businesses should come together to create a special package that touches on the lives of the SMMEs as well as the areas that creates the small jobs. I can safely tell you that a person can come to Mpumalanga and go to Kruger National Park and sleep in Sohosan and lives. There is an accommodation that is struggling for that tourist somewhere in the rural areas of Hazyview, Kuhlu, and so forth. But they don't benefit from the tourists that are visiting the nearby attractions. So as a result of that, we are creating through this particular expo an exchange program to say what are the packages and where do the packages touches. And in that way, the businesses that are very small will benefit from the tourists that are coming to their nearby attractions, especially the areas of Shisanyamas and so forth should form part of the packages of the tour operators so that a tourist gets the entire experience of what Mpumalanga can offer. And in that regard, the SMMEs will generate revenue, not as a handout or a charity, but as part of the business. They started the businesses not to rely on handouts. They started the businesses to rely on the volume of transactions and visitors that come to their facilities.
All right, so let's bring in now Dr. Dimakatso Malwela. Of course, a reminder about that question that we are asking you tonight. What measures should a government take to boost tourism? Dr. Malwela, thank you so much for your time. Of course, you wear many hats, but let's perhaps focus on the SADC region. Give us a perspective in terms of what this region is currently doing to boost tourism in the region. And of course, also, how do we revive growth in the economy? All right, we seem to have lost Dr. Malwela, but we'll try and get her back on the line as soon as possible. But let's take now a quick ad break, and we'll be back straight after this. Well, welcome back. You are watching Unfiltered with me, Unathi Bagyashe. Well, as you know, September is a tourism month. We continue our conversation with acting CEO of Mpumalanga Tourism, Mduduzi Vilakazi. And the question we are asking you tonight is, what measures should government take to boost tourism recovery and boost the economy? Well, we continue that conversation. Remember, you can always tweet us at Unfiltered SABC. You can also find us on Facebook using Unfiltered SABC. SABC. Well, Mr. Vilakazi, let's continue this conversation then with you. All right, we were talking, of course, on how the Mpumalanga province is assisting SMMEs get back on track in order for this sector to be revived, in order for the economy to be revived. One of the concerns coming out is the safety of tourists in the province. Talk to us about recent statements that were uttered, by the MEC of Safety, just talking around concerns emanating from safety issues as it relates to tourism. What are you doing around those issues?
Thank you very much, Unati. What we did is that we have established a forum, a safety Mpumalanga Tourism Safety Forum, which includes all stakeholders that are interested in rooting out crime in the province. Crime is crime. There is no crime leveled against a tourist and a crime leveled against a citizen. So crime is crime. Our belief is that the fight against crime on tourism is a fight against a crime on any ordinary living being. So as a result of that, we have brought together the Mpumalanga Tourism Safety Forum to discuss measures that we can put in place to ensure that we alleviate this scourge of crime in the province. One of the examples is that we had a problem in Numbi, and we put in together measures that brought in surveillance cameras. We've brought in private security guards around that area for visibility and frequency. So as a result of that, the crime on Numbi just vanished. I can't say it dropped, it vanished because there are no reported criminal activities around that area. With regard to the N4, where we had spikes put on the road, which is a major problem, we are having N4 patrol in that tourism safety forum. We have different segments of safety, private security. We have the SAPS, we have the regional tourism organizations. We have all other good citizens that are interested in ensuring that there is safety of a tourist and a good experience to a tourist. We are dealing with that matter. We have also seen a different type of crime wherein the Zamazamas who are trying to mine the dammed mines, when they don't find the gold or the diamond that they are looking for, they then resort to go to the areas of tourism to rob our tourists. And we are working with the police to ensure that those that are found to be doing such criminal activities are brought to book. I can safely report that we have made a lot of arrests with regard to that. And Mpumalanga, I can also safely say, is an area that is safe for any tourist to visit. Although that is not enough, because we do still have some reported cases of crime against tourists, but that has been drastically reduced to ensure that all our tourists are having a good experience rather than a criminal encounter.
Now, another factor that has come in is obviously that of finance. As you know, South Africans are experiencing high fuel, high food costs, and it's really difficult to make ends meet. Because they want to travel, it's very difficult to do so, even at domestic, level. What efforts are you making as Mpumalanga Tourism to ensure that the packages that you curate are affordable for most South Africans who are barely eking out a living as it is?
We are promoting that travelers should use tour operators. The bigger the number in a tour operator travel vehicle, the less the cost. And as a result of that, using the packages created by tour operators, it reduces cost of fuel and also reduces cost of accommodation, because when a person books an establishment privately, and when a person books an establishment through operator, the costs are reduced drastically. So we are promoting that travelers should engage with tour operators to ensure that they get packages that are cheaper, discounted, and also they go in groups. That also provides safety, provide information, because tour operators provide tour guidance and an information that is very necessary for one to take home. If you are traveling alone, you will only view, but if you are traveling with a tour guide, you will also get the gist of the heritage, the history of the area, as well as why it is important for one to come back. Of course, we are affected by the increase in inflation rate. It has one way or the other not promoted one to take a destination. But we are saying, with the use of tour operators and the packages that they've brought together, part of the expo is to say, how best can we promote tour operators to be linked even to private individuals who want to take some tours, and that will reduce their cost. Instead of using individual cars, they will use packaged cars. So we are, of course, looking at a scenario that will be better, but looking at what we are seeing now with regards to electricity, it is also another pandemic, so to say, the load shedding now that is also affecting our environments.
Very quickly, before we go to break, in as far as the efforts that you are making, from a local tourism perspective, how are you doing in as far as, township tourism is concerned within Mpumalanga? What's the situation there like? Is it picking up?
Of course, it is. It is picking up. What we are promoting is that even the tour operators should have in their packages township visits to Shisanyamas, to guest houses, to areas where they can interact with the community and society. In that regard, we've seen an increase in tourists visiting our townships, and I can safely say that the townships are very peaceful. We're only affected where in a township there is a community unrest or a strike. That is where we are affected, because it discourages tourists if they know that they are blocked by communities that are either crying about service delivery or any other matter. So as a result of that, we're encouraging our communities to find different ways of engaging with government other than to blockade the road and also affect the experience of a tourist.
All right, Mr. Vilakazi, let's pause there for now, and we'll continue this conversation after the break. Of course, the question we are asking you tonight is, what measures should government take, to boost tourism recovery, particularly in turn boost the economy? We continue with the conversation straight after this. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching Unfiltered with me, Unati Bagyashe. Well, as you know, we are discussing all things tourism. September focuses, of course, on the importance of tourism in the South African economy. We have been in conversation with the acting CEO of Mpumalanga Tourism, Mr. Mduduzi Vilakazi. Let's now welcome Dr. Dimakazo Malwela, who is the Vice Chairperson for United Nations Women in Tourism Leadership Africa Committee. She's also the president for Women of Value Southern Africa. I believe we've lost her again, but let's continue with you, Mr. Vilakazi. Thank you so much for staying on. Let's continue now with Mr. Vilakazi, who is the acting Mpumalanga Tourism CEO. Of course, we were talking specifically about the Tourism Expo that is looking at ways in which it can identify strategies for small businesses in particular to revive themselves and help themselves, pick up from this particular sector, which has been battered by COVID-19. Talk to us now about some of the measures that you have put in place, in as far as the lessons that you've gotten from COVID-19 and making sure that, some of those tourism companies are watertight in terms of, the effects of any other pandemic, in as far as tourism is concerned.
I can safely say that tourism is not, as normal people say, tourism is about leisure. Tourism is about different ideas. And I think as Mpumalanga, we have not explored those ideas. One of them is events. If you go to provinces, you will find that they have big signature events, which we do not necessarily have. We have one big event that brings people to the province, which is Inipos. And we think that we should have a variety of signature events, not necessarily events that brings people for a bash. Of course, nightlife also is another, but this requires people to team up. We have seen people in Mpumalanga working inside, or if they team up, it will make them at least survive beyond any particular pandemic. One of the lessons that we have also learned is that we can depend among ourselves. People from the province can explore the province. The province covers in excess of 5,000 kilometer road network, which of that road network, 1,800 takes you to tourism sites. If people from Mpumalanga visit Mpumalanga, the tourism business will thrive. We've also learned that there are other areas where tourism basically is untransformed, and it's difficult to transform it because you have families that are running tourism businesses, families that are running guest houses, families that are running restaurants, families that are running shisanyamas. If you are to transform, you can't transform on equity. You need to create new tourism products that will augment each other and support each other. And as a result of that, you will get this one being a feeder to the other. We did not have that before, and we are seeing a growth in those feeders. But also we've started an exchange program where those who are developed must mentor those who are introduced in the tourism industry. And in that case, we are going to transfer skill, but also not only transfer skill, transfer also the hospitality and the care that a tourist will come back. In most instances in our SMMEs, once a person goes there, becomes a campaigner of that tourism products because the service is not good. So we are promoting that there should be an exchange program of the experience as well as those that are new in the business to learn from each other and also develop each other. And in that way, we got the support of the regional tourism organizations that are doing that now to ensure that our people are also developed in the tourism space.
All right, Mr. Vilakazi, thank you so much for your time tonight. Really do appreciate you coming out. Of course, that was the acting CEO of Mpumalanga Tourism, Duduzi Vilakazi. Mpumalanga is saying that they are doing everything possible to make sure that those tourism businesses that were hurt by COVID-19 are up and running. And he's saying, come and visit Mpumalanga province. Well, that's it from me tonight, Unati Bagyashe on Unfiltered and the team. Until next time, goodbye.